Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. I'll give you all these examples of the people that did it. And then there's everybody else. But the important thing, and what has driven me for 30 years doing this, even though at times the results are pretty pathetic, is because I know it's possible. And, I'm going to get credit for QLA long after I'm dead. I'm going to get credit for whatever the trillions when I pack it up long after I'm gone. I knew that long time ago. But see, I am passionate about it. And when I say you, I mean, generally speaking, the people that come here aren't. I'm doing it like it's the last 2 minutes of my last Super Bowl. And generally speaking, you're not. I'm doing it, even though Michael Jordan's given a lot of credit, although he's in the process of selling his basketball team, for clutch shots at the end to win. But when you go back and you do the statistics, as he has for himself, he's only hit clutch shots 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 times. He's missed the clutch shots to win the game 2 or 3 times out of 4. But he's known for clutch shots, as was Kobe Bryant and a couple others. Does anybody not understand this? When you look at it just in the cold light of day, it's pretty fucking embarrassing. And when you show this to a 13-year-old, the only question they normally ask the teenagers, do texts count? Is that plural, Texas? Anyway, texts count. And the answer is no. That's the only question the kids ever ask. Do texts count? Wait, wrong way. No, I was wrong. Okay. Now, most of these things were on our list, what happens, and we've alluded to all of them. Inevitable of success, you lose your friends. You will think you're going crazy. I never thought I was going crazy. I never had any friends, so I didn't worry about that. You'll feel pain. I didn't really feel any pain. You will almost talk yourself out of it hundreds of times. I never suffered from that. You will lose money. I sure shit can relate to that. You will cry before you get it. The only thing I cried at John Wayne movies and when Gene Autry sings, "Here Comes Santa Claus." That's the only thing I cry about. That's it. Your family and friends will discourage you. I can relate to that, but I don't listen to them anyway. You will doubt yourself 1,000 times. I never doubted myself 1,000 times. I never doubted myself one time. You will develop weird habits. As Sally would say, since she's been with me through most of this ride, I had weird habits before I started. People will give you grief for no reason. Most people stay away from me because they're afraid of me, so I don't get much grief, any grief. It will all be worth it. Fucking men. I've been rich and I've been poor. And there's no fucking, you can't relate. Then suddenly they will all be your best friend. Simon the Bell said that, and then when you're successful, they all come your way. And Donald said that, or reasonably that. But most of those things I didn't relate to because I don't suffer from empathy or sympathy. And everybody in this room suffers from empathy and sympathy at some level. And everybody in this room, at some level, would rather be liked. But you've never equated being liked with being more effective. But now you have. So now next time, I'm not telling you to help a blind lady, stop helping a blind lady across the street. That's not what I'm saying. But next time you do a charitable act, I don't consider them charitable. Just there's a Rasputin in the back of your head saying, why am I really doing this? Ask yourself. Now, when you go to church or synagogue, they still pass baskets for money, Why are you really putting money in the basket? If you put money in the basket. Is it because the guy before you put money in the basket? Or the 3 or 4 guys before him that put money? Why? Ask yourself. I just got a email from Brian Ramsey, who's the reverend at the Guthrie Church down here. He came here 1 month before I moved here, and he just retired. We just had his retirement last year. Not too many people go to that little church. But we've talked. He's on my exploratory committee for politics. And he says, people put money in that basket for a lot of different reasons, Mr. Peña, most of which you would not understand. But the primary one on the list is guilt. You're not trying to help the poverty-stricken, all the things that religion is supposed to assist with. It's none of those. It's guilt. And even if you don't consider your parents toxic, your mom has put guilt on you. Either guilt to finish school, guilt to not have drugs in your life, those things that proper parents, or textbook parents, I call them, textbook parents have tried to get you to do. My parents, and we're going to talk about goals, only had one goal for me in life, and I've said this 1,000 times now, to keep me alive until I reached the age of reason. My dad said that when I was about 10 or 11, shortly after I tried to kill my teacher. To keep me alive. And he said, I don't know if that's going to be 20, 30, or ever. The last time I got arrested was February the 10th, 1977. I was already a multimillionaire. Assault with a deadly weapon. Last time I got arrested. I was 30, almost 32. I haven't driven a car. We were trying to figure out since then. I bought a limo service, which is still around. VIP limo. That didn't help me. I still got in trouble. But anyway. So we've tried, but to keep me alive. And that's why when my dad came here the one time, and he stayed for 3 days, even though he came for 10 days, and he stood under the chandelier in the drawing room, and he looked up and he says, Dan, just tell me it's not drugs. It's not drugs, Dad, but it's kind of like drugs. It's oil and gas. Two-thirds of the CEOs of the Fortune 1000 companies, world's 1,000 companies in the world have one thing in common. They're martial arts trained. Two-thirds. Two-thirds of that two-thirds have something else in common, military background. They either went to military school like Donald Trump, or they were actually in the military like me. The common thread, other than, and recently when you saw the film about this man's army today, or this man's navy today, is discipline. Secondly is leadership. Depending on how high you get up the ladder in either military education or military actual service, it's a discipline first and leadership second. There is a total lack, not total, there's almost a total lack of discipline in today's world. Remember I said 2 things about COVID. The good news is you got a lot of money free. The bad news is you got a lot of money free, and a lot of the money you don't have to pay back. Now, that doesn't instill any discipline. So ergo, we now have people working from home. We now have people, studies have been come out. I said this from the very beginning. I believe that productivity was affected 2/3. You get roughly 1/3 done working at home. Over the last 2.5, 3 years, more and more of the big CEOs have said, you got to come back to work. And they've compromised, and there's no compromise in being a high-performance person. And now, kind of generally, they want you to be at work 3 days a week. This is from A to Z, and you can work from home 2 days a week. 2 days a week. My children are senior managers that work from home. And our daughter was here. She had 3 Zoom calls recently. And she says there's no way that we're anywhere as productive. 0. Yeah, see, once you open the barn door and you let them out, give them choices, give them freedom, it's hard to lock them up again. Now, I didn't consider working 5 days a week, locking them up. But today, growing up as a teenager, as a young adult, there's a lot of shit you can do that's pretty much fun. I understand that. But fun to me was making money. Fun to me was taking responsibility. Fun to me was running towards the gunfire. Fun to me was not buying a Lexus, but buying a Rolls. They didn't have Lexus when I was a kid, but I'm trying to make a metaphor here. Buying a Rolls was my first car. Because I always had goals. I didn't look at it that way, that I could not accomplish, or I should not have accomplished at the time I accomplished it. So I faked it until I made it. Perception is reality. And in the new world, it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. And part of the reason it's just the opposite is because it's easier to do. There's no pressure. And where I considered in my life failure was never an option. The new generation and a half, maybe 2 generations, failure is not an option because they don't put themselves in a win-fail situation. They put themselves in a neutral situation. And that will be, you've heard everybody say that the bitch is not buying the companies, it's running them. You talked about office politics. Well, it transcends office politics. It transcends politics. Now it's human nature. When people are late. Sir, is that are you?
Yes, sorry, that was my hand.
Go ahead.
Shouldn't all of these problems with running the company be the CEO's problem and not yours?
No, well, you own 2/3 of it, so ultimately it's your problem. But the answer is yes. But unless you, again, when you pick a CEO that's got 30 years experience, he's still going to be enough of the old school. But if you pick a CEO that's got 10 years experience, he will not have that old school experience that I'm alluding to. You'll still make money, you'll still be successful, you'll still maybe double your money and when you sell the company, but you're not going to hit it for 6, as they say in this country. You're not going to hit a grand slam home run. Because in their definition of success is not a grand slam home run. I'll give you an example and then we'll tune off YouTube. The stock market is roughly at 35. The Dow, which is the main indice that people follow. I don't follow that indice. The Dow Jones Industrials is around 35,000, more or less. It's been 35,000 for a long fucking time, okay? It was, I think, when Trump took over, it was 25,000, okay? And Trump, arguably, he said it was going to go to 50,000, okay? We're never going to know if it would have gone to 50,000 because, he lost the election. So you got $1 million. Right now, the average home in Southern California, trash, where I came from, is $415,000. In the ghetto, in the barrio, call it 500, so it's easy numbers, 500,000. And they own the house, even though my neighborhood burns the mortgages. Okay, forget that a second. In 20 years, that's going to be probably $1 million or less. My dad, the same house that my dad built after World War II, he built it for $6,000. The house is 840 square feet. 840 square feet is about 2 garages, a double garage. 800. This is more than 840 square feet. This is about 1,000. Where we're sitting now is about 1,000 square feet. He built it, okay? When he sold the house, because we had to move school districts, because I tried to kill my teacher, he sold the house for $8,400 or something like that. And so he built it in 45, 6 after the war, and we moved in 55, 56, so 10 years, roughly speaking. So he made about 50% on his money, more or less. And he, no money down because he used the GI Bill. I mean, with military, you could get a mortgage. Okay, I've never used any veteran benefits because they're all small amounts of money, and I never needed, $100,000 or $200,000 for a mortgage. Okay, so now you have $1 million in the stock market at $35,000. Let's say we're back on January 1. It was about $35,000 then, and the stock market doubles. Well, the law of sevens, at 7% interest, the gain, the market will double in about 10 years. So now the market's 70,000 10 years from now. And so let's just say you have an average a blended rate, so $1 million goes to $2 million. Everybody in this room that has owned stocks or stuff like that would be happy. You'd be happy, 1, because you didn't lose any money, and 2, because it sounds you've got country club rights, even though you don't belong to country clubs, most of you. You've got country club bragging rights, or you've got Thanksgiving around the table bragging rights, or Christmas bragging rights. I doubled my money. My $1 million is now $2 million. Okay. Now let's forget for a second. You can't really live retirement on $1 million in America. If a house in the ghetto costs $400,000, let's call it $500,000. Let's forget that. Your money doubles. You saw Warren Buffett's numbers. $10,000 invested in 1962 or 3, whatever it was, is 340 some million in 2022. So that's 40 years, something like that. Okay. He has the most successful index in the history of time. Okay. Forget adjusting for inflation. Forget the fact that you're not going to reinvest the dividends. Forget the fact that you're not going to reinvest capital gains like he purports. So you've doubled your money. So what? It's better than losing your money, I give you. One deal, you're a short millionaire. You've seen Amber, who sat right with this young lady sitting right today, 60 days. You've seen the pig fucker, 26 days, and he got a lot more than $1 million because he didn't do a $750,000 to $1.5 million deal. He did a 12 million pound deal, which is $15 million. So he is an instant $3.5 million in 26 days. The Irish guy's still trying to figure out how this IRA ex-bag man could do that. Okay? You talk about, I made 6% of my money or 5% or 12% of your money. I've never heard in 52 and a half years of being a professional, some people would argue whether I'm a professional or not, 52 and a half years in business, any of those guys that I know a lot of talk about making 6% on their money or 8% on their money. When they talk about return, I tripled my money last year. Tripled that. Yeah, in the last 5 years, I made 10 times on my money. Even the jargon, the definitions you use to base whether you're successful or not are in that lower end of the dual reality world. You never heard Donald Trump talk about making 8% on his money. The definition, and the people that teach those in the big schools talk about ROIs. You heard Peter say that an acceptable rate is 6% on top of inflation. Remember him saying that? He said it 3 or 4 times. That rate has been the going rate for 25 years, 6%. Adjusted for inflation. Meaning whatever the inflation rate is in the country, In some of the countries you come from, the fucking inflation is 25%. So then that accepted rate is 31%. So you doubled your money. When a big tsunami comes, our closing ratio during Corona was up 120%. Our average deal was about $860,000 to you. If you were in pounds, it was $1 million, the exchange rate. This is not hidden information. This is not secret. Why anybody invests in the stock market, I have no fucking idea. Because it's the only thing you know. Tomorrow when I talk about if you have to, and you don't do this, but you don't want to be involved in investments anymore, buy an index fund. No load, no commissions, no fees, and do monthly deposits for the rest of your life. And go out and learn how to play tennis or golf or something. So 2/3. A 100% of those CEOs that Peter alluded to yesterday, or day before yesterday, are sharks. You heard him say the word 4 or 5 times, didn't you? Sharks. They're sharks. They're tough guys. They never attended any fucking seminar. Remember him saying that? You're not. Your dream team collectively is. 2 or 3 of you in this room think that you're players. Then why don't you have any money? You're either a drug lord or you're not a drug lord. You know? You're not even remotely close to a player. This is the world you're going out to. But fortunately, we're not trying to take, when I say take, I don't mean steal. We're not trying to take money from these guys. Otherwise, this seminar, I'm teaching a different way, okay? But the motivated sellers you're talking are babies in bassinets, old people in a Zimmer frame, spitting up blood from emphysema. That's who you're going after. And all you have to do is learn, remember, no, K-N-O-W, when to say no, and or next. That's it. Nothing more. Whether you're in the Bible Belt or in the Jewish ghetto of Manhattan. But we're not stepping into that arena yet. Because they will eat your fucking lunch. They will leave you in the gutter bleeding out for dead. And the only defense you have and offense you have is your board, is your dream team. Bye-bye.